Hello, family. Enjoy this relaxing moment with Surly Tales. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. It means the world to us. Also, share this video with your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. Mia Evans had grown used to life's relentless barrage of misfortune, but nothing could have prepared her for the calamity that unfolded one fateful evening. After enduring a grueling double shift at the busy downtown diner, she found herself exhausted, both in body and spirit, as she stepped out into the chilly night. The city lights shimmered overhead while her mind was clouded with worries about overdue bills and a future that seemed increasingly bleak. Every step was heavy with fatigue, and her uniform still reeked of burnt coffee and spilled dreams. As she hurried along the pavement, her thoughts were interrupted by the sudden roar of the wind. Without warning, a powerful gust swept through the street, toppling a neatly arranged stack of delivery boxes outside a luxurious restaurant. Reflexively, Mia lunged forward in a desperate attempt to prevent the boxes from scattering, but her tired body betrayed her. In that split second, her elbow collided with something unyielding. A harsh, metallic crack echoed as a sleek, black side mirror dislodged from its elegant perch on a nearby Rolls-Royce. Time seemed to slow as the mirror swung precariously in the air before it crashed onto the pavement in a shower of shattered glass. Mia's heart pounded with a mix of shock and dread. She stood frozen, her mind racing to process the unfolding disaster. The sound of shattering glass mingled with the distant hum of the city, amplifying the gravity of her mistake. It was as if every eye on the street had suddenly turned toward her, judging her misfortune. Before she could recover, a deep, commanding voice cut through the chaos. "Unbelievable," the voice declared, its tone dripping with icy disdain. Slowly, Mia turned to face the speaker and found herself staring into the penetrating ice-blue eyes of Dominic Carter, a man whose presence exuded authority and power. Standing tall in a perfectly tailored suit, Dominic's expression was one of barely concealed irritation as he assessed the damage with clinical precision. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" he demanded, his words laced with a controlled fury that sent chills down Mia's spine. Her throat tightened, and she managed to stammer, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." Her voice trailed off, drowned by the weight of his disapproving gaze. Dominic's eyes flicked briefly to the broken mirror before returning to her face. "That mirror was custom-made," he stated coldly, his tone brooking no argument. "Do you have any idea of its value?" His question was not a request for information but an indictment of her careless actions. Mia's mind raced as she struggled to form a response. I can't possibly afford," she began, but her words were cut short by his unwavering command. "You are correct," he asserted firmly. "You cannot. Therefore, you will work for me until every cent is repaid." His declaration left no room for negotiation, and the reality of her predicament crashed over her like a tidal wave. In that singular, disorienting moment, the bustling city around them faded into insignificance. Mia felt as though she were caught in a vortex of despair and humiliation. The cool night air offered no comfort as the gravity of her mistake pressed down upon her. With her heart hammering in her chest, she realized that the accident had not only shattered a precious, expensive mirror but had also irrevocably altered the trajectory of her life. Every detail of that evening became seared into her memory: the unexpected gust of wind, the sound of shattering glass, and the cold, unyielding gaze of the man who now held her fate in his hands. As she stood there, overwhelmed by regret and fear, Mia understood that this was not merely an unfortunate mishap. It was the beginning of an ordeal that would test her resilience in ways she had never imagined. Now, as the distant sounds of the city melded into a low, indifferent hum, Mia's thoughts churned with uncertainty about what the future held. She took a tentative step forward, her eyes fixed on the shattered mirror and the man whose presence now dictated the course of her existence. In that moment, amid the chaos of broken glass and shattered expectations, Mia realized that her life was about to change in ways she could neither foresee nor control. Steeling herself against the rising tide of fear, Mia whispered a silent vow to endure whatever lay ahead. Though the night had brought despair and humiliation, it also ignited a spark of determination within her. With trembling resolve, she accepted the harsh reality of her new fate, knowing that every misfortune might conceal an unexpected opportunity to redefine her destiny and discover strength she never knew she possessed. The night's cruel lesson marked the start of transformation, indeed. The following morning, the world seemed draped in a surreal haze as Mia arrived at the imposing glass and steel headquarters of Carter Enterprises. Still reeling from the previous night's calamity, she clutched her bag tightly, her pulse erratic with anxiety and dread. The grand lobby was a stark contrast to the humble diner where she had once toiled. Marble floors, gleaming chandeliers, and hushed voices created an atmosphere of refined opulence that made her feel even more out of place. A tall, impeccably dressed receptionist greeted her with a cool nod before directing her to a private office. There, waiting with an air of impatience, was Dominic Carter. His gaze was as sharp as ever, and his expression had hardened since the accident. Without a hint of warmth, he slid a thick contract across the polished desk. "You will be my assistant," he stated flatly, his voice carrying a weight of authority that brooked no refusal. Mia's eyes widened in disbelief. "Assistant? I've never even managed an office before," she stuttered, her voice barely audible in the cavernous silence of the room. Dominic's gaze remained unyielding as he leaned forward. "Figure it out," he replied curtly, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. "Either you master every task on this list, or you pay me $20,000 in cash." Her heart sank. The sum was astronomical, and the idea of owing such a vast amount was terrifying. Yet, faced with no viable alternative, Mia hesitated only a moment before her trembling hand reached for the pen. "Fine," she whispered, her words heavy with resignation. The contract was signed with a shaky flourish, sealing her fate. Over the ensuing days, Mia was thrust into a world of relentless demands and impossible expectations. Her mornings began with precisely timed coffee runs, 3 espresso shots, almond milk meticulously measured, and a solitary drop of organic honey arranged with exacting precision. "It must be perfect, Mia," Dominic would bark over the phone, his voice a constant reminder of her precarious situation. His instructions were terse yet inflexible, leaving no room for error. At the office, she spent hours sorting through endless piles of contracts and confidential documents. The language was dense and legalistic, far removed from the familiar chatter of the diner. In quiet moments, she would whisper to herself, "How am I supposed to understand this?" But there was no time for doubts. Every minute was scrutinized by Dominic's steely eyes. One brisk morning, as she juggled a stack of files and hurried down a pristine corridor, Mia overheard a hushed conversation between 2 senior assistants. "She's just paying off her debt," one murmured, glancing nervously around, "and once it's cleared, he'll toss her aside like yesterday's news." The words struck her like a physical blow, amplifying her sense of isolation and despair. Despite the harsh reality of her situation, there were fleeting moments of unexpected kindness that punctuated her arduous days. Once, after a particularly exhausting meeting, a gentle colleague offered her a reassuring smile and a few quiet words of encouragement. "You're doing better than you think," he said softly, his eyes kind. Such moments, though rare, became precious lifelines amid the unyielding pressure. Throughout it all, Dominic remained a looming presence, a man of few words but intense expectations. At times, he would offer a terse nod of acknowledgement or a brief, almost imperceptible, softening of his eyes. "You have potential, Mia," he would occasionally remark, though his compliments were as fleeting as they were enigmatic. Each rare moment of warmth was quickly overshadowed by his exacting standards and relentless scrutiny. By the end of each day, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the towering office fell into quiet stillness, Mia found herself reflecting on the strange paradox of her new life. Here she was, trapped in a gilded cage of corporate demands and impossible tasks, yet also granted an unexpected glimpse into a world of power and influence she had never imagined. The rules were brutal, and the expectations, crushing, yet each day also brought a whisper of possibility. A chance, however slim, to redefine her own worth. As she closed her eyes that night, the words of Dominic's command echoed in her mind. The contract was not merely a binding agreement for repayment, it was an unyielding decree that would shape her destiny in ways she was only beginning to understand. Amid the cold efficiency of the corporate world, Mia clung to a fragile hope that somehow, in this maze of impossible demands, she might discover a strength she never knew she possessed. In that moment, Mia resolved to master every rule, come what may. One stormy evening, as dark clouds swallowed the city and rain pounded relentlessly against the office windows, Mia remained at her desk long after everyone had left. The soft hum of fluorescent lights mingled with the distant rumble of thunder, creating an atmosphere both eerie and intimate. Exhausted yet determined, she tapped away at her computer, compiling yet another report that seemed to stretch into infinity. The solitude of the office felt unusually heavy tonight, as if the very air were charged with unspoken emotions. As the clock ticked past midnight, a sudden flicker plunged the room into intermittent shadows. Mia sighed, rubbing her temples in frustration. "Not again," she murmured, half to herself and half in exasperation at the relentless technical glitches. The storm outside intensified, and the erratic lighting cast dancing shapes on the walls, each flash illuminating the tired lines on her face. In the midst of this disconcerting ambience, a quiet, low voice broke the silence. "You're still here?" the voice inquired, gentle yet carrying an unmistakable note of concern. Startled, Mia turned, her eyes widening as she saw Dominic standing in the doorway, his usually impeccable attire slightly damp from the rain. His expression was softer than usual, and the harsh edges of his persona seemed momentarily blurred by fatigue. "I had to finish this report," Mia replied, her voice shaky but honest. The air between them shifted, and for a brief moment, the rigid boundaries of their professional relationship softened. Dominic stepped further into the room, his eyes scanning the scattered papers and empty coffee cups with an almost unfamiliar tenderness. "Every time I see you, you're pushing yourself too hard," he observed quietly, his tone laced with a rare concern that sent a flutter through Mia's chest. She hesitated, uncertain how to respond to this unexpected side of the man who had always seemed so unapproachable. I can't help it," she admitted softly, her fingers nervously twisting a pen. "I have to prove that I'm capable." Dominic approached her desk with measured steps. Without a word, he reached for his jacket, its sleek fabric contrasting with the disarray of the room. In a spontaneous, almost tender gesture, he draped the jacket over Mia's shoulders. "You're freezing," he said simply, his voice devoid of the usual command but rich with genuine care. Mia's eyes met his, and for an instant, the storm outside seemed to quiet, as if acknowledging the unspoken connection between them. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the persistent patter of rain. The simple act of warmth carried a weight of meaning that transcended their usual exchanges. As the minutes slipped by, they found themselves immersed in conversation, a dialogue that felt both tentative and sincere. "I never imagined a night like this would bring us to such an understanding," Dominic confessed, his gaze fixed on the rain-streaked window. "You're more resilient than you know, Mia. There's a strength in you that I see every day, even when you don't notice it yourself." Mia's cheeks flushed with a mix of embarrassment and a burgeoning sense of recognition for her own worth. "I've always thought of myself as just a small cog in a huge machine," she replied quietly, the admission carrying the weight of years spent in the shadows of others. "But maybe, just maybe, I can be more than that." Their conversation wove through confessions and quiet reflections, each word building a bridge over the chasm of their previous misunderstandings. The storm continued its relentless assault on the city, yet within the confines of the nearly empty office, there emerged a cocoon of shared vulnerability and hope. In that dimly lit space, as thunder rumbled in the distance and rain battered the windows, Dominic and Mia discovered an unexpected connection, one that defied the cold protocols of their daily interactions. For one brief, luminous moment, the boundaries of employer and assistant melted away, replaced by the tender recognition of two souls seeking solace in one another. As the power stabilized and the storm gradually subsided, the fleeting magic of the evening lingered. Dominic's parting words, soft yet resonant, echoed in the silence. Remember, Mia, strength isn't about never falling. It's about rising every time you do. And with that, he turned and exited the room, leaving her with a newfound sense of possibility that shone as brightly as the clearing sky outside. With the storm now a fading memory and the office bathed in the gentle glow of early dawn, Mia sat quietly, absorbing the profound impact of the night's events. Every word, every gesture had revealed layers of strength and vulnerability. In that moment, she vowed to embrace the unexpected, to allow herself to feel deeply, and to never again underestimate the transformative power of genuine human connection. The night had changed everything, and so had she. The night of the Carter Enterprises Gala arrived in a dazzling display of opulence and high society. Mia, reluctantly dressed in an elegant borrowed gown, stepped into the grand ballroom with trepidation. The room shimmered with chandeliers and lively conversations, a world far removed from the diner and her everyday struggles. Every head turned as she entered, and for a fleeting moment, she felt the weight of every expectation pressing upon her. Dominic, ever the commanding presence, appeared at her side almost immediately. His dark eyes held a fierce intensity as he leaned close to whisper, "You look stunning, Mia, but remember, you are with me tonight." His tone brooked no argument, and though a flicker of something softer passed through his gaze, it was quickly masked by his usual severity. As the evening progressed, Mia found herself navigating the glittering maze of influential guests and sparkling decor. It wasn't long before a charming investor named Liam Westwood approached her. With a warm smile and a smooth tone, he offered, "May I have the pleasure of this dance?" His eyes sparkled with genuine interest, and his conversation flowed effortlessly as he recounted tales of business ventures and adventures abroad. Mia hesitated, caught in the delicate balance of politeness and intrigue. I appreciate the offer," she replied cautiously, glancing around as if seeking an ally. Liam continued, "It would be an honor. You seem to possess a grace that transcends the ordinary." His words, laced with admiration, made her pulse quicken, and for a brief moment, the possibility of a different life flickered in her heart. However, the atmosphere shifted abruptly when a sharp, icy stare cut through the merriment. Across the room, Mia caught sight of Dominic, his eyes burning with a dangerous mix of anger and jealousy. In that instant, the festive ambience cracked, revealing the raw intensity simmering beneath Dominic's polished exterior. He strode over with determined steps, his presence silencing the surrounding chatter. "Mia, we're leaving," Dominic commanded in a low, controlled tone that brooked no refusal. Liam, caught off guard, attempted to interject with a playful smirk. "She can make her own choices," he remarked, his voice light despite the tension. But Dominic's grip on Mia's wrist was firm and unyielding, his eyes dark with possessive fire. "In our world, you belong with me," Dominic declared, his voice resonating with finality. The words hung heavily in the air, and in that charged moment, Mia felt the full force of his jealousy, a burning assertion that left no room for argument. The glittering lights of the ballroom seemed to dim around them as whispered conversations faded into an uneasy silence. In the midst of the confrontation, a flurry of conflicting emotions surged within Mia. Part of her bristled at the overt control, while another part, more vulnerable and tentative, found solace in the intensity of his protection. "Dominic," she began tentatively, but her voice faltered as his gaze held hers captive. The conflict in her heart was palpable, a silent battle between the desire for freedom and the allure of being claimed. As they made their way out of the ballroom, the air thick with unresolved tension, whispers trailed behind them like shadows. Mia's mind raced with questions, about her own worth, about the price of debt, and about the nature of love in this gilded cage. Each step echoed with uncertainty, every glance from onlookers a stark reminder of the fragile line between admiration and control. Outside, in the cool night air, Dominic paused and turned to Mia. "You must understand, Mia, that my anger is born from the fear of losing what is mine," he said, his voice softening momentarily. "I may be jealous, but it is only because I care." His admission, though wrapped in possessiveness, stirred something deep within her, a confusion of emotions she could neither fully embrace nor reject. Their eyes locked in a silent conversation, filled with longing and conflict, as the gala's distant music mingled with the rustle of the night. In that charged moment, amidst the burning embers of jealousy and desire, Mia realized that the path ahead was as treacherous as it was intoxicating. After leaving the gala, the cool night air provided a moment of clarity as Mia walked along quiet city streets. The conversation and confrontation replayed in her mind, each detail etched with the intensity of raw emotion. She felt torn between resentment and a strange, inexplicable comfort in Dominic's possessiveness. The complexity of his feelings unsettled her, yet sparked within her a determination to understand the true nature of their connection. In the solitude of the night, Mia reflected on the price of vulnerability and the bittersweet sting of jealousy. Every step she took was a step toward unraveling the contradictions of her own heart, a journey that promised both pain and unexpected liberation. The night, with all its turbulent emotions, marked a turning point, a prelude to a future where love and control intertwined in dangerous, compelling ways. In the quiet hours of a dismal evening, Mia found herself alone in the expansive penthouse that had once promised a future of redemption and possibility. The soft glow of city lights filtered through the towering windows, casting long shadows across the immaculate marble floors. She had sought refuge in solitude after a day filled with conflicted emotions, only to be met with whispers that shattered the fragile trust she had begun to build. While gathering documents in a secluded corner of the penthouse, Mia inadvertently overheard a hushed conversation between two of Dominic's trusted assistants. Their voices, low and conspiratorial, carried words that cut deep. "She's just paying off the debt," one murmured, his tone indifferent. "Once it's cleared, Carter will discard her like a forgotten expense." The revelation hit her like a crushing blow, leaving her heart pounding and her thoughts in disarray. Tears welled up in Mia's eyes as the betrayal sank in. All the long hours, the relentless tasks, the small moments of unexpected kindness, they now seemed nothing more than the means to an end. The contract that had bound her to Carter Enterprises was not a path to growth, but a shackle designed to be discarded once its purpose was served. The cold, calculated cruelty of it all was a stark contrast to the fleeting warmth she had glimpsed in Dominic's rare moments of vulnerability. Determined to reclaim her dignity, Mia stepped away from the documents, her hands trembling as she wiped away tears. With each quiet, measured step, she felt the weight of a betrayal that went far beyond monetary debt. It was a violation of trust, a dismissal of her worth. In the solitude of the penthouse, she realized that she had been reduced to nothing more than a temporary solution, a disposable pawn in a game she never asked to play. Unable to bear the overwhelming sense of hurt, Mia made a swift decision. Without uttering a word of goodbye, she left the penthouse in a flurry of quiet resolve. The silence of her departure was as profound as the storm of emotions raging within her. Outside, the city's indifferent night offered no solace, only a mirror reflecting the shattered remnants of her trust. In the days that followed, every interaction with Dominic became laced with tension and unspoken accusations. His cold demeanor, once punctuated by rare flashes of care, now served as a constant reminder of her perceived insignificance. The words of the assistants echoed relentlessly in her mind, fueling a simmering anger and a deep-seated resolve to never be used or cast aside again. Mia began to question everything she had known about her role at Carter Enterprises. Was she merely a means to an end, a temporary fix to cover a colossal mistake? The thought haunted her day and night, a shadow that refused to dissipate. The betrayal, as raw and painful as it was, ignited within her a determination to redefine her own worth, one that would not be measured by debt or obligation, but by her own strength and resilience. In the quiet aftermath of that crushing revelation, Mia resolved that she would no longer be a passive participant in her own life. With a heavy heart yet a clear mind, she prepared to face the uncertain future, a future where she would reclaim control and rewrite the narrative of her existence. Deep in the silent aftermath, Mia felt the raw sting of betrayal transform into a burning resolve. Every whispered word and every calculated dismissal echoed in her mind, forging a new determination to reclaim her life and her dignity. She recognized that the pain of being discarded was not a reflection of her true worth, but rather a testament to the callous ambitions of those who sought to use her. With each passing hour, the bitterness that had once threatened to overwhelm her began to subside, replaced by a quiet strength that surged from deep within. In the solitude of her heartache, she vowed to break free from the shackles of exploitation and to forge a path defined by her own choices. The future, once a bleak landscape of obligations and debts, now shimmered with the promise of self-discovery and empowerment. Mia resolved that she would no longer be a victim of circumstance. Instead, she would harness the lessons of betrayal to build a future where she was both the architect and the master of her destiny. In that resolute moment, she embraced the truth that her worth was immeasurable and that she deserved a life of freedom, respect, and genuine love. Days had passed in a quiet, anxious lull after Mia's abrupt departure from Dominic's world. The halls of Carter Enterprises felt empty, and even the gleam of success seemed tarnished by the absence of her presence. Dominic's life, once dominated by the relentless pursuit of power and control, now carried a weight of regret and longing. In a dramatic twist of fate, he decided that silence was no longer an option. One chilly evening, as the city buzzed with the usual hum of late-night diners and restless streets, Dominic made an unexpected appearance at the very diner where Mia had once worked. The establishment, modest and unassuming, was a stark contrast to the lavish penthouses and corporate boardrooms he usually inhabited. With purposeful strides, he walked straight to the counter, where memories of simpler times seemed to linger in every corner. Without a moment's hesitation, Dominic placed a check on the counter. The amount, more than enough to cover the colossal debt, was a bold declaration of his intent. "The debt's paid," he announced, his voice carrying across the quiet room. The few patrons present fell silent, their eyes wide with astonishment as they witnessed the billionaire's unexpected act of generosity. But the most astonishing part was yet to come. Pulling out his phone, Dominic opened Instagram Live. In a move that would captivate millions, he addressed his vast audience with unwavering conviction. "I don't care if the whole world knows," he declared boldly, his gaze never wavering from the camera. "Mia, I don't want you to work for me anymore. I don't want you to owe me anything." His words reverberated through the digital space, igniting a firestorm of reactions online. Mia, who had been watching the live stream from a quiet corner of the diner, felt her heart race in disbelief. Tears welled in her eyes as she listened to Dominic's public confession, a declaration that transcended business transactions and reached deep into the realm of raw emotion. The check was not merely a means of settling a debt, it was a symbol of his desire to let her go free. In that charged moment, the internet exploded with hashtags and trending topics. Hashtag Dominic and Mia trended for weeks, as viewers around the world were drawn into the unfolding drama. Social media platforms buzzed with fervent discussions, debates, and declarations of support, each post amplifying the intensity of the gesture. As Dominic stepped closer, his eyes locked onto Mia's, and the tension of past conflicts seemed to dissolve in the warmth of that shared moment. "You really mean it?" Mia whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of hope and lingering doubt. Dominic reached out, gently taking her hand in his. "More than anything," he replied, his tone soft yet resolute. In that instant, the barriers of debt, power, and obligation shattered, replaced by an overwhelming desire for genuine connection. The diner, now a stage for one of the most dramatic gestures in modern romance, fell silent as onlookers watched the unfolding scene. The grand gesture was not only a declaration of love but also an emphatic renunciation of the past, a promise of a future unburdened by the chains of debt and exploitation. As the live stream continued and the world watched in rapt attention, Dominic and Mia embraced, their figures illuminated by the soft glow of the diner's neon lights. In that embrace lay the promise of new beginnings, a testament to the transformative power of love. The grand gesture had broken the internet, and in doing so, it had rewritten the rules of their entwined destinies. After the grand gesture, as the online world buzzed with praise and speculation, Dominic and Mia stepped out into the cool night, leaving behind the stage of spectacle. The air was charged with a mix of exhilaration and uncertainty, each breath a reminder of the risks taken and the promises made. In the quiet aftermath, both felt the stirring of a new chapter, one that would be defined not by past debts or shattered trust, but by the courage to embrace vulnerability and pursue genuine love. Dominic's bold public declaration had not only mended the broken pieces of their connection but had also ignited a fire of possibility in both their hearts. As they walked side by side, the soft glow of streetlights guiding their path, they knew that their journey would be fraught with challenges. Yet, in that moment, hope shone brighter than any digital trend, promising a future where love, respect, and freedom would reign supreme. After the grand gesture, as the online world buzzed with praise and speculation, Dominic and Mia stepped out into the cool night, leaving behind the stage of spectacle. The air was charged with a mix of exhilaration and uncertainty, each breath a reminder of the risks taken and the promises made. In the quiet aftermath, both felt the stirring of a new chapter, one that would be defined not by past debts or shattered trust, but by the courage to embrace vulnerability and pursue genuine love. Dominic's bold public declaration had not only mended the broken pieces of their connection but had also ignited a fire of possibility in both their hearts. As they walked side by side, the soft glow of streetlights guiding their path, they knew that their journey would be fraught with challenges. Yet, in that moment, hope shone brighter than any digital trend, promising a future where love, respect, and freedom would reign supreme. Their hearts united, they stepped forward into a tomorrow full of endless promise, together, unstoppable and unafraid, always. The end. If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.